Hello there, how are you? Well, here we are, the very last day of 2014. And it's certainly been a wild old ride on the back of the Chinese year of the horse. I don't think many of us were really prepared for how wild it could be. Since the period of 2012, we have actually been really in surfing lessons, really learning how to ride the tidal wave of change, the tidal wave of shift. And for the most part, perhaps people have been emotionally unprepared for that ride. What I know about heaven is that one way or another, whether you plan it or not, heaven has a way of grabbing your attention. And it gives us many opportunities to listen to our inner self. But unfortunately, that mind of ours often puts what we need to listen to off until tomorrow. So for many people, the ride of 2014 has been a nasty ride. It's been a dumping ride. It's been a ride that's been a really big awakener to the truth. And unprepared, that can be extremely dangerous and uncomfortable. But as we cross over now into 2015, we head hopefully into the more gentle, compassionate year of the goat. It's a little bit more timid than the horse, although it's still incredibly stubborn. But I would like to say this. I think it's really interesting that we all really have such very varied and different energies around what is success, around how do I portray myself, around how do I appear to other people. But this is a time where truth will become more apparent and more necessary than it ever has before. In our lifetime, for many, many years, in fact decades, we have been worshipping everything that has been outside of ourselves, thinking that these things outside of ourselves would make us happy. But now we're in this great tidal wave of shift that is asking us to really look at that beautiful internal emotion, that internal heart, that internal soul that is much greater than your physical body, and giving it permission to come forward in a very true, authentic way. Recently, I was watching a series, an old BBC series, set in the English countryside. And I found myself plugging into this series regularly. Perhaps it was to hear the accents that I so long miss of my own family, of my mum and dad that have passed. And I found myself welling up in tears as if I was missing some terrible part of myself or some deeper part of myself. I found myself dipping into this series, watching this beautiful green countryside and this tiny little community village set back in about the 1950s, longing for a time that was so much more simple than the time we live in now. I found myself missing my dad's booming loud voice, and it was a booming loud voice. He was a man who was much larger than life. He was very straight, very true, very honest, very difficult, not easily pleased. He was a hard taskmaster. But I found myself missing that beautiful accent that I grew up with, that history that I grew up with. I found myself observing this beautiful little village and this tiny little bridge that joined one side of the village to the other, that crossed this little babbling brook. And I found myself looking at that little old stone bridge thinking, if I was to pick a bridge to stand on, it would be that little bridge. And that's not to say that I don't love great big bridges, because I come from Sydney and I love the Harbour Bridge. But what it reminded me of is a simple time, an easier time, a time where community mattered, where we mattered more to each other, where we took time to assist the person next door or the person down the street, where we looked at each other from a perspective of trust rather than a perspective of distrust. As we cross now from 2014 into 2015, I wish for you with all my heart a simpler time. But simple can only begin when we simplify our endless need and start pulling up from within ourselves what truly matters and what we truly want to give our heart to. I wish you a heartfelt journey, a journey of love, a journey of peace, a journey of togetherness, a journey of humility, a journey of inspired wisdom, which will most definitely come from you when you begin to listen, softly listen to the inner heart, the spirit that is you. A very happy new year, and I'll see you across that little bridge in 2015. Bye for now.